With the winter meeting starting on Monday, are the Giants poised to make any moves? And Barry Bonds, is he finally going to get in to the Hall of Fame? That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? I'm Alan Salz. Welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, because of people like you, the #1 sports podcast network. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento River Cats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. Today, we are discussing whether or not the Giants are going to make a move with the winter meetings coming up early next week. We talk about Luis Arraez, somebody we haven't spoken about yet, and his fit possibly on the Giants. And last but not least, Barry Bonds and its Hall of Fame voting, and another addition to the coaching staff. And it's a big one. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So happy Friday, everyone. If you're watching or listening to this over the weekend, happy Saturday or Sunday fun day. Yeah, let's start actually with the biggest news that again happened a little bit after I put out the show yesterday. Ron Washington joins the San Francisco Giants, and Ron Washington, he is a guy that has really been all over the baseball world, and he is revered, I'd say, within the baseball world. This is from Bob Nightingale, former Los Angeles Angels manager. Ron Washington is finalizing a deal with the San Francisco Giants to be their major league infield coach. Washington, an infield guru, could have the most impact of any free agent this winter with his expertise. Then Zach Manassian went on KMBR, the Giants flagship, and confirmed what Bob Nightingale had reported. Giants, and this is from Pavlovich, Giants are finalizing a deal with Ron Washington. And Manassian said he was someone Tony Vitello brought up. That's a lot of experience, which is needed, and also one of the best infield coaches around. And here is the write-up from NBC Sports Bay Area. They go on to talk about the KMBR appearance that Zach Manassian had. He also was asked, just real quick, there's a lot of information, and sometimes Fridays are news dumps in a way, because I want to get everything out to you before we head to the weekend, because I won't be on for Saturday and Sunday. But Manassian did also talk about whether or not the Giants are going to spend money, and these guys are good at talking. And he said, well, we're going to look at everything. And he's not going to sit there and say, yeah, it's right, we are not spending on Imai. He's going to say what GMs and what presidents of baseball operations and what these guys say, which is kind of absolutely nothing, and leaving all the doors open just in case. But he did get asked about it, and he did say, hey, same idea that we've been saying. If something comes along, we are always open, but we just have to be very prudent in what we are doing. So Washington, 73, was most recently the manager in Anaheim, where Manassian's brother is the general manager. He has 10 years of big league experience with the Angels and Texas Rangers, and has been a coach for the Athletics and Atlanta Braves. The Giants are still in the process of finalizing exact roles for their incoming coaches. And Manassian said it's possible Washington gets in the mix at third base, but at the very least, he will coach up the infielders, and few have ever been better at that. With Washington and Ron Wotus in the organization, the Giants will have two of the most respected infield coaches in the industry. So, yeah, that's great stuff for the Giants to be able to bring in a guy like that. They also, like I mentioned, said Tony Vitello, it was kind of his idea to bring in Ron Washington. I don't want to necessarily put this on one person, but it does kind of make me think that this could be about actually two people, Rafael Devers and Bryce Eldridge, and they both are at first base because obviously Bryce Eldridge has kind of bounced around. I don't know if a lot of people remember he was a two-way guy when he first got drafted. He was pitching as well. They tried him in the outfield, and maybe they end up trying him again, but he's been at first base, kind of figuring out his way at first base. And obviously Rafael Devers, who has quite the glove because he was at third base, it's still making that transition over to first base. So I don't know if it's exactly for them, but they're definitely going to benefit, and they might benefit the most. I know Willy Adames, even, he kind of had a cold stretch defensively throughout the season and then started to heat up and make his way and improve in that regard. You still got Casey Schmidt, he's bounced around a little bit. I know that his defense did become more lockdown at the end of the season, but it never hurts to have somebody like Ron Washington come in and help you out a little bit if you may need it, or even if you don't feel like you need it. And you already got Matt Chapman, who we know what he does at third base. So I think it's a good look for everyone involved. And it might be, to Bob Nightingale's point, to kind of lead you into a little mini segment here, it might be the biggest acquisition the Giants make, which I don't think fans want to hear, but it could be very important for their defensive approach. And some of the guys that are coming up, let's not forget, some of the names that we've talked about before. When it is their time, you never know what could happen as far as who might go down, who needs to come up to help that. So a great look for the Giants, and sounds like Ron Washington is very excited, is definitely juiced to get to the Giants organization and be able to help out in that way. And now they have Dusty Baker, they got Bruce Bochy. This is what you have to do. And I know I've gone back and forth with some of the guys from Tennessee that they've brought in, and I know some of you have gone back and forth with some of the guys from Tennessee that they brought in, but this is kind of an all-star cast of guys that have been around the league, guys that are respected within the league, and how they're going to be able to give their knowledge and their information and their experience to Tony Vitello. So outstanding stuff right there from the Giants, able to lock him down. And look, he got an opportunity with the Angels. The Angels, man, that might be one of those snake-bitten organizations. I've always said about the Angels, they've never really sat there and said, we're not trying to win, right? There's some organizations, I won't name names, that won't spend money or won't really commit. That's not the Angels. They've just done things that haven't worked out. And I know, well, they had Mike Trout and Shohei, and they didn't get to the playoffs, or, one run, whatever it was. They didn't really do anything. I hear you, but they did try. They tried Albert Pujols, Anthony Rendon. They tried. It just didn't work out, and they bring in Ron Washington, and they got some young guys. I know they have, I think, Moore from Tennessee. They drafted him. So he's a Vitello guy. You might want to pay attention to that in a couple years here, because he does play second base, actually, now that I think about it. But obviously he's on the Angels right now. So yeah, I mean, I don't look at what happened with the Angels, and it's a different position, of course, that Ron Washington is rolling into. But the Angels just one of those organizations where things just don't tend to end up correctly, and things just don't really tend to work out for them besides that 1 year. And we know the year that we're talking about. I don't need to bring up the year. On the other side, let's get into what Jeff Passan and Buster Olney are saying regarding the winter meetings, and if the Giants are going to be active and what level of activeness they may have. We also have a Luis Arraez profile, because people keep hitting me up about Luis Arraez. So I will give my thoughts, and we will break all that down. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NFL season is here, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping up at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw a amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app makes it super simple. I can even see the exact view from my seat before buying. And zone deals, I love them. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. I have to tell y'all about my favorite jeans. My doers. Seriously, they've changed my life. Right now, I'm wearing the Performance Denim Slim Straight, and I cannot get over how comfortable these jeans are. I've been reaching for my doers for everything, running errands, grabbing dinner with friends, even heading to the ballpark because they look great and feel even better. Here's the thing. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim, so you can actually move in them. They're also antibacterial, which means they stay fresh longer, wear more, wash less. And they're made with Cool Max technology that helps regulate body temperature and wick moisture, so you stay cool and comfortable as the day changes. Honestly, they feel as stretchy as my favorite joggers, but look like I'm dressed to go out on the town. Doer is all about combining classic jeanswear style with athletic level comfort and performance. It's the best of both worlds. They actually pioneered the original performance denim, blending technical innovation with everyday clothing that looks sharp and feels incredible. Simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without sacrificing style. Once you try them, they'll be your go-to pair. Trust me. And if you're in San Francisco, check out Doer's store at 567 Hayes Street. Pick up a pair for yourself or grab one as an amazing holiday gift. Mention my promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or shop online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for that same 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. Your new favorite jeans are waiting. So the reason I did not start the show with the update from Jeff Passan and Buster Olney, it's very simple. There was not much. Okay, so Buster Olney and Jeff Passan, they put out an article this morning, and it was basically breaking down what could happen with the winter meetings starting. MLB winter meetings, free agency intel from Olney and Passan. Okay, cool. That sounds like something I should pay attention to. So I go through the article, and the Giants are mentioned one time. The Giants are mentioned one time, and I will obviously lay out to you where they are mentioned, but with all these different moves going on and Tarek Skubal, and they talk about who is most likely to be traded and teams most likely to be active, the Giants were mentioned one time, and this is the capacity in which they were mentioned. This is from Buster Olney. It depends on your definition of big name. Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, future Hall of Famers, will find landing spots, but they are on the downslopes of their remarkable careers. They can wait, and there is a presumption that Scherzer could pitch for his good friend and new San Francisco Giants manager, Tony Vitello. So yesterday we talked about whether or not the Giants were trolling us, whether or not the Giants actually are going to make a move or not. Right. And the question he was asked was, now that Dylan Cease has signed, which big name aces could move next? I'm telling you, man, the Giants are doing a really good job if they are trolling, but I'm kind of starting to think they might just be telling us the truth. They could just be telling us the truth, or they're trolling. And even that level of trolling would be, no, we did actually go out and get Imai or one name. It's not going to be two. I'm fairly confident to say that they're not going to get 2-3 guys and bring them in here via free agency. Now, trades, as we've discussed, that's a different story. But yeah, to only be mentioned once in this article with the winter meetings starting up on Monday, it is illuminating. It is illuminating, but they are trying to tell us. So maybe they're not. Maybe they're not sitting here and, trying to troll anybody or throw different smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's just them being honest as to what they're actually going to do. So I wanted to make sure I got that out to you. Now let's get into Luis Arraez, because I think once a week somebody hits me up about Luis Arraez, and it's pretty simple to me why I haven't talked about him very much. This is the write-up from The Athletic, of course, and his projection is 2 years, $30 million. So $15 million a year. He's 29 years old. That's something that the Giants could easily do, right? His best fits: the White Sox, the Rockies, and the Nationals. I mean, they don't really got him going to a lot of good teams. I don't know what to do with that information, but this is the write-up. Arraez won 3 straight batting titles with minuscule strikeout rates to earn cult hero status. But when his batting average dipped to 292 in 2025, his lack of power, patience, and defensive value became glaring. Striking out only 21 times in 607 plate appearances is amazing, but 61 RBIs, 66 runs scored, and a 99 OPS plus are underwhelming for a top-of-the-order bat, limited mostly to first base and DH. And there it is right there. Let me finish reading this. He's a fascinating free agent case because Arraez would have been in line for a huge payday 2 decades ago. He might have to settle for a modest short-term contract now. He picked a bad time for a career-worst season and the wrong era to be an elite singles hitter. So his stats from last season: he was a 1.2 WAR. He hit 292, as I mentioned, 8 home runs, 66 RBIs, 61 RBIs, 66 runs scored, and 11 stolen bases, which feels like it's probably top 3 on the Giants, maybe even higher than that. But, not a crazy base stealer. The main reason why I have not talked about Luis Arraez was the end of that write-up. They don't even really look at him as a second baseman. When you look at his baseball reference and you look at his position, he is a second baseman, but he started to move over to first base, which is just a problem. We have too many guys, and I can't sign, it's not my money, but I can't sign a 5'10" first baseman that doesn't hit for power. I'm sorry. And I love batting average. Y'all know I love batting average, but I can't do it. I cannot do it. 2 years, 30 million, so 15 a year. The Giants have too many first basemen already. First baseman DH. I don't know if Ron Washington can help him out and get him back to playing second again. That's the only thing I would think of. And then you can get him in the top of the order. That's the only world I'm seeing this happen. If they're starting the transition to move him to first base, DH, that's just not going to fly, right? Most first baseman DH, these guys are power guys. So, and we're living in a world where a lot of people don't care about batting average anyway, or they don't care about it the same way. So this is a tough go for Luis Arraez. And, like I said, people have hit me up saying, Alan, what do you think about Luis Arraez? That's what I think about him. I think that I don't have an interest in Luis Arraez if he's a first baseman. If he's a second baseman, let's talk about it. But as a first baseman DH, I can't. Enough, right? Enough with the first base and DH. Enough. We can't have 12 of these. We can't have 12 of these guys. The only capacity I would look at it would be to say, could he be the Dominic Smith? But Dominic Smith, 2 years, 30 million, that's a little bit different than the Dominic Smith deal. So I think he could be something like that, but 2 years, 30 million, which isn't a ton, but you already have, and again, he's lefty. So Devers is lefty. Bryce Eldridge is lefty. If you are going to have kind of a righty DH first baseman, that's the direction you would go. You wouldn't bring in another lefty. That's not something that I think makes a ton of sense. So I had to do it. I know a lot of you, he's only 28 years old. And that's the other thing. You're getting moved to first base and you're only 28. You're not even 30 yet. So had to bring him up. A lot of people, and I wanted to do it before the winter meeting started. So I understand why there's interest. You know me, I love a good batting average, but not a good fit for the Giants specifically. All right, we brought this up before, but the time is here. The voting is on Sunday. One of the last chances, possibly the last chance for Barry Bonds to get into the Hall of Fame. I have a breakdown of the committee and where they've stood in the past, and I will give you that breakdown on the other side. More Locked On Giants coming up. The NBA is here, And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so we talked about this, I don't know, not too long ago, maybe a little over a month ago, and the time is here, and the time is now. Results for the Contemporary Eras Committee votes will be announced at 4:30 Pacific Sunday. All right, so they're going to vote on this. And if you are just now catching up, this is another opportunity for players like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens to get into the Hall of Fame. The committee will change when they do these votes, and it just gives them an opportunity to be seen by different voices and maybe, just maybe, sneak on in to the Hall of Fame. So I have a breakdown of the voters and where they've stood in the past and where they could stand now, because the biggest change here is that candidates who receive fewer than 5 votes, so it's a panel of 16, and candidates that receive fewer will be removed for the next cycle. And the cycle is 3 years, right? So it's not an every year thing, but the cycle is 3 years. Okay. If they come back later and get under 5 votes again, then they would be permanently ineligible. So that is a problem. So it's not done yet. They have to get 5. So it's kind of like how I viewed this. And I read a piece from Andrew Baggerly on this, and Steven Risotto from 95.7 also did a breakdown. Honestly, it feels like these guys, and I'll just speak to the Barry Bonds of it, feels like they're just trying to hang around until they get guys in there that maybe like them more. So the goal, I think, on this run or in this run is to get 5 and be able to make it to the next round, because then you don't know how things could shift or who could be available and who could maybe help you or who would be a part of that voting process the next time this thing happens. Okay, so former players, 6 total. They have an older generation where they've been historically tougher on PEDs. So Fergie Jenkins, adamantly anti-steroid, so that's a no. Tony Perez, strong respect the game stance, doesn't sound good. Ozzie Smith says users don't belong, but has had a slight openness, if you will, for non-positive tests. So there's a small glimmer of hope there. Potentially sympathetic. All right. You got Robin Yount, who sees steroids as a league era issue. Jim Catt has said he understands why players did it. And Juan Marichal, strongly pro Bonds and has been vocal. So we got one. We got one right there, possibly 2 in that second group of players. And then you have the executives, the owners. That's 5 in total. You have Mark Atanasio, Brewers owner, Art Moreno, Angels owner, Doug Melvin, longtime exec, Kim Ng, respected progressive baseball mind, and Tony Regan's former Angels GM. And then you have media, the historians. Jason Stark voted for Bonds and Clemens every year. So that's one right there. Tyler Kepner, the Hall should represent all eras. I think that sounds like another one. That's 3. And Steve Hurt, statistician, historian, tends to weigh career value, which the main thing with career value is that a lot of people say, hey, regardless of what Barry may or may not done, he has a whole separate career that should be in the Hall of Fame. So feels like those 3, they got us, right? They got Barry. So that's 4. So all you really need to hang around until the next cycle would be one of the owners, right? So the owners, they didn't really dive into where their stances are, but you got to think, I'm just playing a numbers game. You have to think one of the owners will lean in that direction. Okay, you have to. I also have this from Steven Risotto. He did another breakdown of the voting committee, and I wanted to lay that out because I thought he did a great job on this. He's from 95.7 The Game. Thread, 16-member Hall of Fame committee will soon vote on players tied to the steroid era. Names like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Gary Sheffield. So here's his breakdown. Jim Catt hasn't said much publicly on PEDs, so he's a bit of a wild card. You'd expect him to side with the purists of this era, but in 2009, he did defend Alex Rodriguez and said that players weren't culpable. Fergie Jenkins, there's no way we'll see PED guys receive Jenkins' vote. He previously called on Mark McGwire to apologize to the pitchers. Okay, so again, that's a no. So we might be at one right now. Juan Marichal, this one is tricky. The Dominican dandy has SF Giants ties to Barry Bonds, but he's also of the older lineage. In 2007, he supported Mark McGwire's Hall of Fame candidacy. A lot has changed in 20 years, though. Perhaps another wild card vote. Tony Perez seemed like he was empathetic and understanding in the Fox Sports story that he did in 2013, but he was also close with Joe Morgan, who is the poster child, or who was the poster child for wanting to destroy the chances of PED users in Cooperstown. Ozzie Smith, probably a no. That's all Steven says. Probably a no. He's been vocal about it. Alan Trammell, I think Trammell has been a committee voter before, and those individuals, their votes are never revealed to the public, and Steven couldn't really find anything on him. Robin Yount, Bud Selig's friend, was my first thought, but he's been reasonable about this topic before. I have zero clue if it would translate into a vote for PED users. Mark Adonacio bought the Brewers from the Selig family in 2004 and dealt with the Ryan Braun biogenesis debacle. Owners will generally side with whatever MLB wants, and that doesn't sound too promising. Doug Melvin, so many Milwaukee ties here. Melvin, the former GM of the Brewers, also oversaw the Braun scandal. No public comments otherwise. Art Moreno, if there was any credibility to this ballot up until this point, it should certainly end here. Moreno being allowed to vote completely invalidates the entire system. What are we doing here? Seriously, he's been hard on PED guys in the past too. Kim Ng, not too sure on her leanings. She's been a behind-the-scenes executive for most of her big league career, so opportunities to comment on PEDs and the Hall of Fame have been at a minimum. Tony Regans, he works for MLB as their chair baseball development officer. It's really difficult to figure out how these committees are selected, man. No public comments on PEDs or Hall of Fame. Terry Ryan, former Twins GM and now special assistant in Philly, not sure on the stance. As you can tell, this thread and its drama is noticeably thinning out. Steve Hurd, he's a historian, a statistician at the Elias Sports Bureau. He's voted before, but again, it's been anonymous. Tyler Kepner, a senior writer for The Athletic. Kepner once tweeted that he'd hoped Sheffield makes it to the contemporary ballot one day. I'd imagine there's a vote, and he said he'd vote for the others too. So there you go. We needed that one. Jason Stark always voted for Bonds and Clemens and Sheffield too when he was able to fit them. Two of the BBWAA members with voting track records should be 2 guaranteed votes. So yes, even seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, looks like the 2 to 3 we feel good about. The issue is the other 2. And I know the last time we had this conversation, a lot of people said, I don't even care anymore, or this thing is such a mess. Not that you don't care, but they're clearly trying to keep Barry out. And some of you might agree with that, even if you're Giants fans. A lot of you may not agree with that. So I don't know. I just think it gets to a point where if you're Barry, it's probably just tiring, right? And you look at names like this, and obviously everything becomes anonymous. So you could say what, just like in normal voting, you can say whatever you want to anybody. And then on the other side, do what you need to do. So yeah, this is a tough one. And I'm struggling to get past 5, which means that we're more so focused on can he hang around and get the 5 to get to the next cycle versus will he actually get in? So again, he's not done, but he's going to need some help. And, right now you're just trying to hang around, right? Like you're in a tennis match or something like that. Or if you play cornhole and your partner, you're going back and forth with somebody and the person you have is a ringer. And you said, partner, I need you to do something because your person that you're facing isn't as good. And I'm just trying to hang around here until you can get us some points. That feels like where Barry is at this go round, but we'll see on Sunday. And of course, we'll talk about it on Monday. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to follow me on social media at _South5Styles with an I. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast, where there is no offseason. Sully keeps you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed MLB fan. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We will talk to you on Monday. Until then, peace.